Hey guys, it's two guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel, and
Hey guys, I'm Evan. Looking forward to tonight's roundtable. Two guys in Hockey Talk. Another jam-packed night. Great topics about the world of hockey. So it's good to be back. Crazy good things happening here at Two Guys. Non-stop action. Been busy lining up guests for our show, and tonight is no exception. Val, why don't you introduce our guest tonight, man?
all right. We got Jordan back. Jordan, how you doing?
Hey guys, excited to be back.
Welcome back. We finally got somebody with a real beard, so thank you. And we've got Johnny Grant, the local boy, very famous, very well known. If you don't know, he's going to introduce himself. Johnny, how you doing?
Hey guys, thanks a lot for having me. Pumped to be on the show. I met Pavel through ball hockey, and I'm looking forward to the show. Thanks a lot for having me.
Hey, so we need to know something, Johnny.
Yo.
Can he actually play hockey without tripping over his stick?
Oh my! The very first time I ever met Pavel, I did a drop pass to him on the point, and where we play outside, there's no like fences and boards keeping the ball in, and this guy shot the ball somewhere into someone's backyard. Like I'm talking like a good like half kilometer away.
He
And I
thought
was
he
like, all right.
This is true.
friend.
A friend of ours who plays with us, Sanjay, he thought it was golf season for me because that's how bad it was.
It's like playing street hockey again, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say
so
you're not
I gotta be
going to get the ball from him though. The guy can run for days. He's tough to get the ball from. He's got hands like feet, but he works hard. He works hard, and he's tough to get the ball from.
Oh, sweet.
You're too kind, Johnny. The way I remember playing with you is that you were able to get the ball off the ice, and as a defenseman, sometimes playing, you're like right up to Dave Shaw, our captain that Jordan knows, and he got a goal or two or an assist, whatever it worked. But for me, I fumbled it, and it was a penalty somehow on me. So
Hey, okay,
it does not work.
I just realized why you're falling down, Pavel, because you just said you get the ball up the ice.
This is how bad things are. But yeah, we
Man.
have a jam-packed show for you tonight. Evan, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, before we jump into our talk here, I went and looked up some really cool info out there around ball hockey. So in North America, I didn't know this, but our First Nations people first observed playing a variant, I guess, that they say, of the game of ball hockey in 1572, guys. But get this, in the 1960s is when Canada became the first nation to play the sport organized in leagues, and the States followed up later in the next decade in the 70s, and Europe in the 80s and 90s. So it's been popularized around the world, and man, can people take the game seriously? Sometimes so serious you'd almost think they're being paid to play the game. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to let our guests share more on this here tonight, because I'm sure they got some crazy stories and some great information they can share.
For sure. So, Johnny, I wanted to first ask you a little bit about your interest in hockey, where it came from, when you first fell in love with the game, and a little bit about the jerseys behind you.
Well, so for the jerseys here, my red one here, this is one of the teams I played with outside of the Dome. We were one of the better teams in the Dome, called the Rooks. Awesome bunch of young guys, like some of the best dudes I've ever played with. And I had to put up the all Oilers jersey, or I would have probably been crucified by other people. And then this team here is probably my big one, the Killer Bees. I've been running the Killer Bees for well over 10 years now. That's some of these guys are some of my best friends since I moved to Edmonton. And yeah, so we haven't played together now since COVID hit, but those are the three jerseys there. As for me in ball hockey, my brother back in New Brunswick, he was a diehard ball hockey player, and back when I was young, I didn't even know ball hockey was really a big popular thing. He brought me out to his provincial championships one time, and I was just blown away with how amazing the sport was and how fun it was. Like, it was literally ice hockey. Guys are chirping each other, fighting, and like legit awesome athletes. There was one guy on his team that played Team Canada, Jason Biani, and I was just blown away with how good these guys were. So he's kind of the reason I got into it. As soon as I found out there was leagues, there wasn't, like in Nova Scotia, it wasn't very big. So I kind of had to wait till I got a little older. As soon as I was old enough to hop into a men's league, I think I was about 15 years old when I hopped into my brother's men's league. and I was obsessed, like literally obsessed with it since then. And I what I loved about it was that I was a terrible ice hockey player, and I couldn't shoot if my life depended on it. I couldn't do anything with a puck at all. So I leaned a lot more towards that sport. And and it wasn't very big in Nova Scotia. And then I moved to Edmonton in 2006, and it's a huge league here, huge leagues, and like thousands of people playing in it, like from all ages.
So I got a quick question. Do you have Best Buy as a sponsor?
Best Buy?
You said Killer Bees, man. I thought Best Buy it would work for you.
Best Buy? No, we're literally sponsored by no one. We pay money to play ball hockey. We pay for these jerseys. You know, we got a really good hookup with a guy in Edmonton that makes these jerseys for us.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Should work on getting a honey sponsor.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Should work on getting a honey sponsor for those Killer Bees jerseys there.
Yeah.
So apologies to my colleague who doesn't know how to ask a question about ball hockey because he's been so retired he can't even grow a beard. But I know you've been organizing in the last little bit, in the last few months. I know COVID's hit, so it's been a little tough for some of the leagues to play because Jordan and I have partaken in it. But do you want to talk about, I think it's the JHE that you've been a part of, and you've kind of organized it and pushed for it, and you've promoted it, and it's been a success thus far?
So it's the JHL. JHL is the Jungle Hockey League, and so it was started by Dennis Davidson. Now, Dennis and I kind of go way back in ball hockey, playing with and against each other. He ran the Metro. Him and other people used to run the Metro Ball Hockey League for a long time, and then they kind of, the numbers just started dwindling down, just because of facilities more than anything. But so Dennis kind of started a JHL, I believe, as a kids ice hockey league, and then that grew quite big. And then Dennis is a very passionate ball hockey player, and he loves running tournaments. He loves running leagues. So he brought JHL, kind of a ball hockey version of JHL. And so far he started his first league last summer in Crestwood Arena. Dennis will typically, because soccer centers are kind of like just BHE, Dennis will go and use the arenas around the city when the ice comes out. So he used that, and he 3-on-3 is also like really big in Edmonton for ball hockey. So he also kind of rents out the Westmount Fitness Center for 3-on-3 leagues. So I really like pushing Dennis's league as much as I can, because it's really nice to have two leagues in the city. The more ball hockey, the better. If people want to play, they should have the options to play as much as they can, and that's what Dennis is kind of providing. Dennis is providing another league, and he's really big on doing tournaments like outside of the city. He's got like 4 tournaments organized in the States. He's one in Jasper, but again, because of COVID, it might not end up happening.
Yikes.
Right. Makes sense. So now, if somebody is listening in and or watching and liking and subscribing, as a side note, how would they get involved with JHL or any kind of ball hockey in Edmonton? Because I know like both Jordan and I kind of had connections through it where we were able to connect and join. And but like I know sometimes you feel like you're new to a city, you don't know a lot of people. How would you join a ball hockey team or things like that?
I mean, one of the unfortunate things is typically to get on a team, you mostly have to just know someone that runs a team that is looking for players. But the good thing is that there are always teams looking for players. And the good thing about ball hockey is they have divisions 16 all the way to Div 1. And you can almost kind of cater to whatever division you feel comfortable playing in. And guys will typically ask, where did you play ice hockey? How comfortable, what division do you feel comfortable playing in? But for the most part, if guys ever want to get involved, they just have to find JHL or BHE on Facebook and just throw out a post. Hey, my name's so-and-so. I'm looking for this level team. And, I play this position, and it's, for the most part, it's that easy. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so if a person's looking, so say we got people in New York region right now, or maybe they're outside of North America or somewhere there's ball hockey. Obviously, they're going to do a Google search, right? Ball hockey and wherever your area is. So not obviously every league's going to be a little bit different, but so if you don't know someone, are they able to, like, say in your league, are they able to like submit their name and then it just kind of gets filtered out to a bunch of the teams that are looking, or how's that work?
Absolutely. So even when I first moved to Edmonton, we didn't really have like all those things on Facebook yet. So I literally found someone on Kijiji. Some like people would put up these ads on Kijiji saying, "Hey, we're such and such a team. We play in this league. We're looking for players." And so that's actually how I got started. I just typed in ball hockey in Edmonton, and there's just so many different ways you can get connected with people. But Facebook, the way that a lot of people have been doing it in Edmonton now is I created a Facebook page called the Edmonton Ball Hockey Players. And that's literally the only reason I created it, was so people that were looking for players or teams that were looking for players, they just post on this page. And like within minutes, usually they're getting responses and they're added to a team.
That's sweet.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's pretty good. And I mean, I want to ask Jordan, like, you know, you joined a ball hockey team. How was your experience playing, like, whether it was for the Reapers or some of the other teams that you played on?
Well, it's actually interesting. He brought up Dennis Davidson. So when I first started playing, I played in a junior ball hockey Edmonton league. It was in the soccer set. We had won it both years. I played on a team called the Kings, and I played with guys that I went to high school with. I was always really good, like at ball hockey or floor hockey. I'd play like, because I grew up South Side, so I played with a whole bunch of guys that were South Side Athletic Club, like really good hockey players, and I was able to keep up with them. I had the feet for hands like paws, but I had the speed for days, and I was a bigger guy, longer guy, so it's a little bit easier that way. I could work in the corners and do the little things. But I didn't play for a while. I tried out for a team for Dennis Davison when I was 18, and I didn't make it. It was a Voodoo, I believe. But I kind of fell away from it for a while. I was really big in soccer, so I was playing Div 1 in that for a while. And then I came back years later. I went to a party, and I had a couple friends that played on the Average Hammers in the Sports Dome League. And I think I was probably about 25 or 26 at the time, and I was hooked again. Like, I don't know why I gave up on it when I was younger, but that's kind of where I started back again. And then I've gone in between the leagues of Sports Dome and the Ball Hockey Edmonton. And then I played in Grace Point Church League with Dan Schultz, the South Side, and done probably a million pickup games at that Twin Brooks League. So
hey, Jordan, just because you're naming different types of facilities that have been used for hockey, because of course around the world, wherever they're playing, like I'm online and I'm actually looking at, they got this outdoor ball hockey leagues, and I'm like, man, that just looks like street hockey, right? You know, when they got outdoor arenas and they're playing, I see them playing them on grass ball hockey. They'll just find anything. So maybe just from your guys' experience, you guys all play ball hockey locally and stuff in the Edmonton region. So maybe just tell us your differences, your thoughts in playing in the different types of facilities.
Well, if you're just kind of wanting to break in, like if you're just a player that's starting out, I definitely suggest Edmonton Sport and Social Club, so ESSC, just because it's kind of all levels. There's some good players in there. There's some players that have never played in their life. There's some players that just want to get out and have some fun. So I think that's a good start. And then if you're wanting to go, like if you want a little bit more competition, then I definitely would have suggested when Sports Dome was open, but now it's Ball Hockey Edmonton. Because of the Sports Dome closing, that's created more competition in Ball Hockey Edmonton. So that just makes it even it's easier to find a team because there's more teams, but more competition as well.
So what's your guys' thoughts on arenas, playing actually in regular ice arenas?
Well, so when I like I said, when I first moved to Edmonton, that was kind of the only option. If you weren't in Ball Hockey Edmonton, the only option was to play in the arenas. So when they would take the ice out every summer, there was a whole bunch of arenas all over Edmonton that Dennis and Metro Ball Hockey would use back then. And honestly, I love them. Like, it feels a little bit more like you're actually in a rink. Like, the rinks are a bit bigger typically. Ball Hockey Edmonton, they use the soccer center, so they have turf in the soccer centers basically all year until about April or May. They take those out. And then the rinks in BHE typically are like, they're not like regulation size. They're typically a bit smaller than a regular rink that you would play in. Whereas the Dome was monstrous. The Dome was like I don't know, you could compare that to like a European style ball hockey just because it was so huge. So if you were a runner, you were awesome in the Dome because you could just like run by guys. If you didn't have the greatest hands in the world, you could literally just run around a guy in the Dome because it was so big. And then they have a few facilities outside that are like unbelievably smooth. Like, I mean, a lot of guys, they don't want to use their really good sticks outside because it just tears their sticks apart. But a few of the arenas that I've played at now in the city, they've made very, very nice, smooth concrete that's comparable to the Dome or BHE.
So if you're a Connor McWannabe and you're fast, that the Dome was perfect.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, just to go back a little bit, when we talked last week about like kind of the physicality, like there was a bit of physical intimidation, and you know there was the calls and the refs. Definitely when you played, right, Johnny and Jordan, and just kind of talk about like the feel of it, feeling like a real hockey game. You know, there were penalties and stuff like that. Like, how did you feel when you were playing, even with a few people in the crowds when you're playing for a championship?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what division you're in. There's like the guys that are in Div 9, 10, they feel like they're in Div 1. Like to them, those are huge championships. Those guys have, you know, those, I find the lower that you go in the divisions, the more crowd you get for some reason. And people are just there to cheer on their boys. But yeah, like with the Dome, it was so cold to like, sometimes it was so cold in the winter there was zero fans every game.
No, I agree with that. And I will add that I brought my wife out to one of our playoff games that Jordan and I played in with the Reapers, and we lost. So I told her, please don't come back ever again because I do not want to lose again. And we ended up winning. So clearly karma worked in my way. So
hey, I will say this. I played ball hockey when I was younger, and then I played ice hockey when I got older. The weirdest thing. But my wife actually showed up to more games when I was playing ball hockey than I was playing ice hockey because of how cold it was. So definitely, that's a strike against fans. The colder it is, less fans you have in the arena.
But Johnny, you can chat a little bit about the fact that like a lot of hockey players, when it's off season for them, whether they're playing any kind of local hockey, they go and play ball hockey, and you can tell a lot of them will play both rinks to better their skills. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always transfer over. There's some people that are super amazing at ice hockey that they can't figure out the running with the stick handling, some of these guys. But when you get a really awesome ice hockey player that like takes the time to figure out the little differences to playing ball hockey, they usually typically end up being amazing ball hockey players. And yeah, what I've seen in the last maybe 5 or 7 years, a lot more is you will see an entire group of ice hockey kids that played ice hockey together. They'll throw their whole team into the ball hockey league. And man, they are like young kids that have hands. They dangle everybody and they chirp you while they're dangling you. And they're amazing. Like some of these teams that have come through, like the Pico Penguins, that's the one that really rings the bell the most. But these kids, man, when they just felt like trying, some of them would play zero defense and they'd win like 7-6 because they just like running back is for idiots. So they would go and just dangle you and score 10 goals just to win the game. But yeah, some of these kids that were coming through from ice hockey are just amazing.
Jordan, I got a question for you. Okay, because we're talking about these guys, everyone's coming in. Like you said, you got athletes coming in. There have been hockey players, other types of athletes, professional probably even too. So Jordan, I got a question for you. How important are your stats, your goals, your assists, your plus minus? How important is that to you in ball hockey, man?
Well, it is and it isn't. I think it depends on the type of player you are, depends on where you're playing, if you even care about your stats as well. Like I was definitely a stats guy playing all the way through, but my stats were padded in the penalty box. So, but for some guys, absolutely, I think they definitely check that. I think depending on the league, I know like Sports Dome, when I played in the Dome, they would have the league, like when you go to the site, it would just be on the right side and it would say like who the top goal scorers are, who the top points guys are. And I played with a couple of them, and they were the kind of guys, they were like surprisingly very humble, and they didn't really care about their stats, but they knew they were some of the best players in the city. So like I played with a guy named Adam Ross, who was probably one of the best hockey players I've ever played with. And then I played with a guy named Andrew Gray, who was like a top scorer in the league a couple years. Johnny, I think, has played with him as
Very
well.
good player. Played against him a lot. He's a very good player.
Yeah, just he moved to BC, but he was lights out when he was playing in that league. So,
Pavel, how about you, man? How important are stats to you?
Well, they're as important as when I came to your office one day and asked you how much you would offer this person a contract. And you said 1.75 million, and I said, "Well, where's my money? Because these are my stats as a defenseman." And yet you couldn't shop up the money or shore up the money. So, no, I enjoyed the stats. I think it was cool that both BHE and the Sports Zone had the stats on there. Sometimes I didn't get it right, which was funny because after the game, in the locker room, people would be talking because you get the sheet and it'd say who got the penalty, who got the points, and who got the assists. But it was fun just to look, right, just to kind of brag. I do have one side story that when we won with the Reapers, which I got to wear in the back of the wall
jersey.
here.
I love it.
We won this great trophy. I think it was out of the lowest division, Division 12. We have the biggest trophy, which was great because all the other ones had smaller ones. So I took this thing to Jasper skiing, and I was showing it off. I was skiing down the hill, right? And of course the ski patrol attendees were like, whatever, it's not a big deal. You're not drunk, you're okay. But the little kids are like, whoa, it looks like the Stanley Cup. And my wife is, I wish. He doesn't make that kind of money.
Well, actually, that just brings me to an interesting point. I want to go a little bit further.
Going back to that.
Sorry, I was just going to ask a quick question to Johnny here.
Sorry.
And then I want you guys all to comment on this. So I got thinking as we were preparing to talk about ball hockey, because I know as a goalie, I kept track. Back in 1990, I actually played in the Hannah Ball Hockey Tournament, and a First Nations team came out. Man, they outshot us 70-4. So we lost 11-1. I thought that was pretty good, actually, but I had to keep track. But this got me thinking. Everybody loves the salary cap. Everybody loves EA Sports. So two things. Number one, EA Sports should do a ball hockey EA Sports, not just ice hockey. And then the second thing is, what about putting in your league the potential of a cap system where each player has to be brought in at a cap number and used at that throughout the year, and then the beginning of the season, you keep that cap number, it registers, it takes up a portion of the cap, and you got to work within that dynamic, and you allow some trades. Man, it's crazy at two guys, but I think that we always got great ideas.
So as for the EA thing, I think that would be amazing, but it's just not really it's not really there. It's a really kind of specific group of people that like ball hockey. I don't know how popular it would be, but what you're talking about, the salary cap thing, that already exists. There's actually a league in Edmonton called the RHL. It's a very small league, and I think it's only 6 or 8 teams. I believe it's 6 teams, and they play out of this church. It's called West Edmonton Christian Academy. And so they just put a curtain down. They do a little 3-on-3 game. And so at the start of the year, they have a draft. So each team is allowed to pick their 3 keepers or something like that. And then everyone else goes into the draft. And then every player is kind of given a salary amount, and it is based on their goals and their assists from the year before. So the I guess the team reps, the GMs, they have to keep their salary cap under a certain amount. So if you draft all these ringers and then they score a pile of goals, well, eventually their salary is going to go up, and then you have to get rid of 1 or 2 of them.
I love it.
It's not a very I used to call it the Fight Club Ball Hockey League, because they kept it so on the down low, you couldn't get into this league. So I'm texting guys, I'm like, hey man, can I get into this league? And they're like, what are you talking about? What league? And I'm like, guys, I see your website, I know this exists. So I did finally get in, and it's a very, very fun league. They do a really good job with it.
It's kind of like Fight Club, eh?
Yeah. Fight Club Ball Hockey League.
Right. First rule is don't talk about ball hockey, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Jordan, what do you think? Would you be a part of that?
I would absolutely be a part of that. Actually, going back to Dan Schultz's league in Grace Point Church, he used to have something similar. No salary cap, but they had a drafting system that each team they'd flip a coin. Basically, I'm not too sure exactly how they got the numbers, but I think it was just random number generator, and they would just pick for each team. Like I think there was like 4 or 5 teams, and they just pick each player who they think. And it sucked to be the last pick, but.
I played in that league as well. It was really fun.
Yeah.
I played in that for 3 or 4 years. Sanjay, my buddy Sanjay and I, we
Yeah,
were playing
yeah,
that
no.
league. It was they did a really good job, and that was like almost a step up from ESSC because it was for fun, but it was like still very competitive.
Such a tight gym too. Like that was probably the smallest gym I've ever played. Like you need 3-on-3. It's so hard playing 4-on-4 in that gym.
Right. Yep.
So
I think
okay.
we're
Next question: icing. What do you call icing in ball hockey?
You know what's funny is there's this guy in the States, and he does videos all over the States doing these ball hockey tournaments, and he'll say, what does he say? He says balling, and I don't know if he's just saying it as a joke, but yeah, he'll say balling, and I'm like, no, it's still icing. It's always icing for me.
So I just looked it up, guys. It's actually called flooring. That's what they call
Oh,
it.
okay.
It's as far as the world ball hockey. Yeah, they call it flooring. But I'm kind of wondering, what do you do when you're in an arena? I guess it's a floor still.
I have a question, and I could be wrong because I know the Olympics are coming up. Is it an Olympic sport or no?
For ball hockey?
Yeah.
No, like I think it's something that's been in the works for a very long time. I don't know who. I have no idea who kind of even organizes this or puts the bids in or anything like that. But
Wow.
I'm actually very surprised that this isn't in the Olympics already. Like I think it should have been
Absolutely.
already. If you go to Europe, you got thousands of people in the stands watching ball hockey games. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I agree because I know that I think it was last year before the ones that are coming up this year, I believe in Japan. I could be wrong. Correct me on that. But they put in quite a few new sports into it, including breakdancing, right? So definitely there's an opening for the fact that you can put ball hockey in, right?
So
Yeah.
Pavel, I just looked it up. It's the ISBHF. You'll have to check into.
Okay.
Hey, so I just want to mention to anyone that's following us right now, if you actually are from a different province or a different city outside of Edmonton anywhere, and you actually know of some connections, if you can just put the city where the ball hockey league is and the name of the ball hockey league, even feel free to put down a number in there for anyone that's actually following. We'd love to try to get you guys connected. We'll do it.
And we encourage everyone, once COVID is over and it's safe to do so, to connect with the Ball Hockey Edmonton group at the JHL and just kind of get involved, because if you're in Edmonton, it's a great resource. It's a great way to kind of connect and play ball hockey and have fun. You know, rain or shine. I know I've seen guys out there in the past playing at some of the rinks around the city, and it's really fun. And you really make a lot of cool connections. So.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to just jump the topics just slightly. We don't got a lot of time like usual. We are always jam-packed. Thanks, guys. So we're going to take our guests here. So Jordan and Johnny, if you're going to help us with this, we're going to talk. Go ahead, Pavel. Cover our last topic here.
So just to get into it a little bit, we've been talking about number ones like Johnny and Jordan being on the show. Well, some number ones that we have seen in the NHL is draft picks in the last decade. And we kind of wanted to see who we would rank in our top 10, given who has been ranked in those draft picks for the NHL, and who you would consider on the top tier, and who we consider, I don't want to say a bust, but maybe not the best success in the NHL. So Jordan, do you want to take us off kind of through your list of who you think is the best?
Yeah, for sure. I actually don't have 2 tiers. I have 3 tiers.
Okay.
I have at the bottom of my list, I have Yakupov obviously being the worst pick in the past 10 years, not even close.
Bustikov.
Yeah, and I have them actually grouped with a bunch of players that haven't proven themselves yet, just because of like newer draft rankings, what they've done so far, where their team is and everything. So after that, I have Lafreniere, the 2020 pick, and then I have the 2019 pick, Jack Hughes, and then I have Rasmus Dahlin as the 2018 pick.
So who are your top 3?
So my top three are McDavid easily. Like I think you can make your debates with having Austin Matthews right there with them, or even Nate McKinnon. But after that, I do have Austin Matthews, and then I have Nate McKinnon following that, and then I kind of have like a middle ground of a bunch of players that are doing the same things for their team. They're like
Yeah.
a good, very good player, but they haven't broken through and done anything great yet, like those players have. So I have Ekblad after that. I have Nuge, I have Nico Heischer, and then I have Taylor Hall. So those are all the same type of players. I know Ekblad's a defenseman, but he hasn't really done anything. He's injured now for the rest of the season. That Florida Panthers team is still good, but until they start winning and doing something, I can't really put them any higher on that list. So
Okay, Johnny, what about you?
Well, I'm not as prepared as Jordan. Wow. But I mean, I can't really disagree with any of his picks. I mean, the only guy I could say that I find there's just some guys that develop a little slower than others. And I mean, I think Ekblad is, I think you could put Ekblad in that top group. I think he's unreal. And especially with Florida this year, he might be one of those guys that was kind of like a late bloomer, but he's unreal. Hall, I don't know. He's another guy, man. Like, I feel like you put him on a good team. I mean, I think he's going to do really good things on Boston because he's not the guy anymore. He's not expected to be the guy. He's going to like kind of sneak in, and he's gonna do some good stuff, I think, in Boston for the rest of the season and even for playoffs. And they're already such a wagon going into playoffs. Nico Heischer, I mean, he's pretty good. I don't know if I wouldn't put him in. I mean, if we go in the three group thing, which makes sense. Yeah, Nico still has to prove himself a little more before he kind of gets named in that higher level of players. With Nuge, yeah, you know, like it doesn't seem like he ever has like a really bad year. He's just not like getting crazy points like the other guys. But he's another guy that he kind of flies under the radar a little bit, and he does his job. He's an awesome two-way guy. I mean, McDavid, Austin, and Nathan McKinnon. Like Nathan McKinnon is just right up there with Crosby, in my opinion, for like the pride of Nova Scotia. Another beauty Nova Scotian boy. Yaks, I don't even know what happened to that guy, man. Like, I don't even know if he plays hockey anymore. Lafreniere, he's another guy that I won't write him off just yet because I think he's in kind of the same thing with Jack Hughes. They're going to be late bloomers. I think they're still going to put on a good show eventually, but they just don't have, they don't have like all the pieces around them yet. But I think, that's my opinion with the picks anyway.
All right, no, solid, both solid choices. Evan, what do you got?
Yeah, well, I feel a little bit different. I'm actually so Nico Heischer, guys, he's got .64 in his games like since he's come into the league. I think he was way overrated. I actually felt that Patrick hasn't turned out. It was like a Yakupov Yelchenik year with it. But if you think about it, his top year is 52 points in a full season. The next year wasn't too bad, but I mean. So let's just say he's got almost full seasons to kind of work with. Nugent Hopkins is a .84. He's a centerman both ways, plays a 200-foot game. He is one of the most underrated, in my opinion. It's because he plays in Edmonton, and they expected him to be the savior. So Ekblad, I know, Pavel, you're big on Ekblad too. We go back and forth. I feel he is a really good defenseman. To me, he's a number 2 overall kind of defenseman on the team. He shouldn't be your number 1. And my issue that I actually have with Hughes, I'm totally disappointed in Hughes as well. I know it's quite short in Lafreniere this year. I think he's picking it up. I almost can't rate Lafreniere. You can't give a one season in a COVID year. And in fairness to Hughes, it's quite new as well with it. But obviously McDavid, Matthews, and McKinnon, they stand up. They're franchise players, with it. Taylor Hall, I consider him. He's .89. Now he's probably going to pick it up a little bit now that he's with Boston and on a good team. So I consider kind of Hall and Nuge and Ekblad kind of all in that same. And I'm going to barely put Dahlin. I know Pavel and I go back and forth. I do not think Dahlin should be a number 1 pick. I think that they should have went with Svechnikov, and I still think Svechnikov is actually going to be the best player in that draft in the years to come. But, man, what's your take?
No, you guys all raised some
Nope.
solid points. I think comparing even what's it called, some of the other draft picks in that year, to compare like with Ekblad's year, Draisaitl was number 3, right? So you can imagine if Florida picked him up, what that would look like right now for Florida. I would say the top tier in my top is McKinnon, McDavid, and Matthews, and it's only because of what they've performed. And I know McKinnon's been a little bit longer in the league, but when he trains with Crosby, you're getting trained with the best. A lot of the tips and tricks. And as you two are wearing the jerseys, right, Pittsburgh has done well in the last decade. So I think McKinnon's up there. I think Colorado has a chance at the Cup. Edmonton is slowly getting there. They have a few moving pieces. Same with Toronto. As always, Matthews is an elite goal scorer, but injury kind of has subsided him. Same thing with Ekblad. The one other thing that I kind of looked at all those top 10 picks is staying with your team or not. And if you look at somebody like Hall, he left and went to a few different places, whereas a lot of the other guys are still with their respective clubs to this day and still playing, right? So when you're not staying with the same club, that changes your dynamic. Right now, Rasmus Dahlin, with everything that's happening there, and even with Ekblad, their defensemen, they develop a little bit differently. Or maybe I'm wrong, but it takes a little bit different of an approach. So I think that if you look at those are kind of like in the middle ground. I think Nuge, like yourself, Evan, is underrated, but I think Hall should be a little bit lower. I think Nico Hirscher, if he wasn't injured, he would be a little bit higher. And I think Jack Hughes needs more time to develop. However, his brother has played way better. And I'm wondering what their younger brother is going to play like, because he's coming into the draft in the next little bit, because I think he's 15 or 16.
I think he's this year. Draft.
Okay, he's this year, yeah. And then, of course, I agree, like Yakupov, it was just a bust. And I'm disappointed because he had one solid year. And I think he went to the KHL. And I don't know what's happening with him now. So
he's still playing. I will say, in all fairness to Hall, you get traded. It was not of his choosing. He's been traded all through. He's kind of dictated some of it. But in all fairness to him, sometimes you are the better player, and Edmonton needed a defenseman. They were so desperate, in it. But, yeah, I agree. I actually put Hall just below Nuge. If Edmonton has to re-sign and or sign Hall, who do you take? You take the centerman, the 200-foot game, and you take the reliable player who's been there all those years. So
what's crazy is we all have Hall really low on our list, and we all have McKinnon not as number 1, correct?
No, I have McKinnon as number 1.
Oh, you do? Okay.
He's a franchise to me.
Top 2 scorers out of all of those players. So.
I will put McKinnon with Matthews right there beside. The only thing that stands out for Matthews is his center work on his faceoffs, and his goal scoring this year has been through the roof. So I give him that. That's the only reason I rate him with McKinnon.
See, and I put McKinnon at number 1 because he's played without some of the top guns like Landeskog or Ratinen on his line. It's just the top line for them. And he's been able to carry that team. And Colorado, like, we never thought they'd be a competitor 2-3 years ago when, they were, they had, I think it was trying to train Duchesne. And now look at where they are. They're contenders. And, like, you can't say that about Edmonton or Toronto. Crazy. They're in the mix, but they're not contenders like Colorado. They have a chance to win the Cup this year is what I see as Colorado.
Well, guys,
would you guys agree?
I was going to say our time's coming in, so why don't we go with some last thoughts? So, Jordan, I'm going to give you the last thought of the day, so go ahead.
Okay. Would you guys agree that Nuge and Nico Hischier are the similar, or if not the same type of player?
Not me.
No.
I don't think Hischier should carry Nuge's jockstrap.
But second line, two-way center. Are they not the same type of player?
He would be a perfect third line on mine. I don't think Nietzsche's going to have the career. I'm sorry.
I worry about injury for Hischier because he's been injured a lot, and I know they named him captain this year, but I worry about an injury.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah, I'm the same way as Pav. If he can stay healthy, I think he is just as good as, if not better than Nuge. I think he's a little more skilled version of Nuge, to be honest. I just think Nuge is just a bit more of a workhorse.
Well, Nuge is also injured right now.
Yeah, that too.
So we got 3 versus 1, and we'll see in 3 years when we talk again. If Two Guys in Hockey Talk is still around, you guys keep us online. So any last thoughts, Johnny?
No, I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me on. Anyone that's looking to get into ball hockey, please go to the Facebook page, Edmonton Ball Hockey Players. Check out JHL, check out BHE, check out ESSC. I also am in the process of starting a new league with Dennis called the Outdoor Ball Hockey League. Edmonton's got a massive amount of outdoor rinks that are really nice for ball hockey. So, I mean, once COVID kind of frigs off, then we're going to get that fired up. And yeah, just thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We have our own number one ball hockey enthusiast here and promoter. You're like I was telling you earlier. You're like the Gary Bettman, but just more likable. You don't get booed when you show up to the rink.
Any last thought? Any last thought there, Pavel, man, before we wrap it?
No, I think it's been a great show. I appreciate Jordan and Johnny coming on the show, and I'm just disappointed, Johnny, you don't have a beard, because then we can harp on Evan for not having a beard. But that's about it.
Yeah, I was told a couple of years ago I'm not allowed to grow one for work anymore, and it was a very sad day.
Well, I was just thinking, you guys could literally make the Johnny and Jordan show. Jordan and Johnny show. You can do your own hockey talk, boys. Well, guys, that's going to be a wrap for our show today. I just want to mention our guest next week. Things go crazy at Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We have former Hall of Famer, Grey Cup champion, and All-Star Willard Reeves coming on next week as our guest, of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He's also father of Jordan Reeves of the Saskatchewan Roughriders and father of Ryan Reeves, who plays for the Vegas Golden Knights. So we're still trying to lock up our second guest that week. But, man, you guys, it's been awesome. It's been an honor having you guys with us here on our roundtable. Thanks so much. So in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, everyone.
Cheers, guys.